Tonight on Straight Talking.
He was like a pop star, and I'm screaming like a baby and all the lads are laughing on the other side. And at the time they basically destroyed Gaza.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Straight Talking with Carlton and Paddy podcast. We just want to start by saying a massive thank you to everybody who supported us after last week's pilot episode by liking, commenting, following us on social media. We really appreciate it. Tonight is an international special and we're filming this just before England kick off, so we'll try and keep up with how things are going. Joining us tonight is my co-host, who was unable to be on the episode last week unfortunately, but he's a lifelong Bury fan and he's a member of the board. That's Gareth. And also we're welcoming back Carlton Palmer. Unfortunately, Paddy can't be with us this week as he's not feeling very well, but we're going to crack on anyway. So, hi guys, how are we doing? You had a good week?
Well, that's Paddy turning up last week when it was -7 in a t-shirt, isn't it? He thought he was coming from sunny Rotherham. And now he's ill.
Yeah, we've warmed up a little bit this week though. We've got the heating on, so we're feeling a bit more comfortable.
It don't feel like it.
Mate, it's balmy this compared to how it was last week.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's a big old room, isn't it?
It is a big old room, and we're here at the wonderful Amiga at Abbeydale again. So big thanks to them for letting us come and film. So what have you been up to this week then, guys?
This week, well, I'm off to Kuala Lumpur and Singapore on Thursday, so I've been I'm away for 3 weeks, so I'm just trying to get everything sorted. So I had my daughter up, my granddaughter, because she's going to be 9 on December the 1st, so I'm going to be away for that. Then I'm away for my birthday, so I've tried to cram everything in. Been down to Birmingham to see my dad who's got dementia, literally just got back now. So yeah, all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you watch England then?
Yes, I
Over the
did.
weekend?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts on the Malta game?
Well, they're difficult games, those games, aren't they? Everybody thinks, oh, well, you're going to smash them 6 or 7, and that's where the problem comes in, expectations. You know, it doesn't happen like that in international football now. Most countries, the players apply their trade at top clubs in Europe. You know, you've seen that with Ghana now, you've seen it with, you know, the African countries as well. The players are top players, so the assumption is you're going to roll everybody over who's not a big name 5 or 6-0. Just doesn't happen, and you have games like that. So you know, the performance is always important in terms of wanting, you know, when you want to win a tournament. But the bottom line is the result.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a bit of a no-win game though, because we're already qualified, so it didn't matter that much, the result, did it? And the expectation was that we'd go out and give them a walloping, and then we kind of creep over the line with a 2-0 win. I
wouldn't say we crept over the line. I think we dominated the game without playing particularly well. There was never they had a chance, didn't they, early on? I think was that in the first 5 minutes when they could have scored. But you know, I think England dominated the game without having to get out of second gear, really. The result was never in doubt. So, you know, obviously the performance wasn't what probably Gareth would have liked. And it's difficult for the supporters because you want to see him play a certain style. But, you know, I think you also get caught up with the opposition as well, don't you?
What would you have mixed it up? Would you have maybe tried out a few different players in that game just to sort of see how they get on, test them out?
Not really, no. I think it's got to that point now whereby Gareth knows pretty much what his squad's going to be for the Euros. You know, you might have the odd person who might gate crash it, but I think he knows what his squad's going to be for the Euros. So why, you know, England have a very, I mean, Gareth could pick, I think, easily off the top of his head, 35, 36 players. So why start experimenting now?
He's mixed it up a bit tonight. He's got Rico Lewis in the squad, Ollie Watkins up front, so I think he's obviously looking at trying people in a few different places.
Yeah, but Ollie Watkins has played a few games recently, hasn't he? And should be banging form, you know, since last Christmas. He's been banging form, and I think it gives us a alternative to I mean, he runs the line well. He works really hard for the team, so it gives Gareth an option with Harry dropping deep, in that number 10 role, and Harry has that ability to knock that ball 50, 60 yards. And Watkins has proved this season that he's not only banging in the goals, but he's holding the ball up very, very well. He's banging form, so he deserves to be playing.
Yeah.
What about Rico Lewis? And he's a talent, isn't he, at his age and playing for City. But I guess is it going to be a different experience for him playing for England?
He's talented. The boy can play, so it's not a problem. You look at players like that and he's destined to play. I think he'll play 80, 90 times for England. Do you know what I mean? So this won't be a problem. It won't faze him. He stepped into the City side and it's not a problem. It's not a problem for him. And the way City play is the way that Gareth wants to play. So in terms of getting on the ball and passing and moving, he's got all that in his locker. I'm pleased with it. Pleased.
Well, what do you think about? I mean, he sometimes criticised Gareth Southgate for picking players based on past performances rather than current form. He stuck with Pickford, he stuck with Harry Maguire through a tough spell. Jordan Henderson, now he's moved abroad. Would you sort of agree with his thought process on that?
It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. If you ask me a question, have I ever been picked for England when I haven't played well? And the answer is yes. Managers know what you've done for them in the past, so there has to be a bit of loyalty. I think it's been very difficult for Harry Maguire, and I think that the manager felt out of loyalty and out of his performances for England that he should help him out in this situation. I admire him for doing that. I mean, Harry Maguire, you do not get picked in the team of the tournament in the Euros and the World Cup if you're a bad player. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Harry, I think, was unfortunate that he went for 90 million. Yeah. If he'd have gone for 45 million, nobody would have been saying anything, right? I think he's shown great attitude, and I think the manager has stuck by him. But he's got to be careful because, if you're looking at Phillips now, Phillips he's not playing, he's not getting games, and if he's not getting games, then you're taking a risk taking that player to tournament, especially when we've got so many players who are playing well. Even though you have that loyalty towards them and they have done well for England, you're going to come a cropper with it at some point. You're going to.
And Phillips has barely played any games, though. If you look at his record over the last 3 years, the game time is very low.
Over his career, it's poor. His career is poor, and I think that's why he went to Man City. I think he went to Man City knowing he wasn't going to get a lot of game time, financially could secure himself. And that's it. I think we'll see. I'd like to think that Phillips will go to Guardiola in the January transfer window and say, I've got to get out and loan. I've got to go and play. There's no point me staying here. Because he's wasting time in his career. He's wasting time. I never thought he was going to play when he went to City. I'm sure his advisors had said to him, right, listen, you can go and make yourself financially secure and then we'll move you on again. As a footballer, it is a short career, and one thing you don't want to do is be sitting there when you get to 35 and think, right, I've wasted 3 or 4 years of my life. If you're good enough, you earn your money.
But then, and money's one thing, but then do you not want to look back on your career and think, this is what I won, this is what I achieved? So the money, he's going to get big money wherever he goes in reality compared to, your everyday person. Calvin Phillips could probably pick a club aside from City, go in, get some good money. But surely to be playing week in, week out, and then say to your kids when you're growing up, like, I won the Prem 3 times, I was a top player, 35 appearances every season. For me, that would mean more to me.
I would never go to a club for money, and I never have done. Never chosen a club for money. I've chosen it because I don't disagree with going to a club if you genuinely think you're going to play.
Yeah.
I went to Leeds United. They had a midfield. They just won the league title. They had a midfield of Gary Speed, Gorossi Sol, Gordon Strachan, Dave Batty, and Gary McAllister. So all internationals. But I backed myself to get in the team. I back myself, whether it's at centre-back or midfield, I back myself to get in the team. I would never promise me that I would be playing in the first team, but I back myself. If I went there and I'd give it everything and I wasn't getting in the team, I would have left. I would have left. So this is his time now. He's had a lot of time injured at Man City. He's fit now. He's not going to play a lot of football at City. So if he genuinely wants to be involved in the Euros, you would think that he's going to have to go in the January transfer window, whether it's on loan or on a permanent move.
Who do you think could come in for him then?
I think a lot of clubs would take him. I'm a big admirer of him.
Yeah.
I'm a big admirer of him. He just doesn't play enough football for me. But you know, maybe a West Ham, maybe a West Ham type of team will take him. I mean, I think, you know, he's not going to end up. I don't think, you know, the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal are going to go for that type of player. I really don't think. But I could maybe see a Spurs have a little nibble for him. You know,
particularly with the injury worries they've got.
Particularly with the injuries they've got. I mean, they've just been linked with Jude Bellingham. Joby.
Yeah.
At Sunderland. So they're looking for somebody to bring in the January transfer window. So it could be somebody like Calvin.
Bit left field. Barcelona, Javi got in, or Pedro Gavi got injured last night. They might want a lone midfielder. Maybe. Might just fit the bill.
Maybe. But he needs to go. Yeah. Whatever happens, he needs to go and play football and further his career. Do you know what I mean? That's what you need to do.
Why do you think Harry Maguire's stuck it out at Man United then, where he's just getting constant, every time something goes wrong, it's almost like it's his fault. He's getting constant criticism. You know, the press, social media, everybody's on him. But he didn't move. And
they're on about now buying another centre-back in the January transfer window. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. From the day the manager played Luke Shaw at centre-back ahead of me, I've gone. I'm not bothered about the money. I've gone. Right? So, I mean, he's playing at the moment in the team. He's got in. And by the way, let's get this right. I watched him against Fulham, and he was their best player.
He's been playing well.
If he doesn't, and that shows the strength of character and the mindset he's got. He was there. He was Man United's best player. They don't win that game if he doesn't play. So I wonder if it's kind of like a two fingers up to the manager, two fingers up to everybody else, and saying, well, I'm not going to be forced out here. I'm going to bide my time. We've got a lot of games this season, and when I get in there, I'm going to show that I am a good defender, which he is, a good defender. I don't think he's top draw. I don't think he's really top draw, and that's really where the problem comes in with the 90 million. But he certainly never let England down, and I think he's the best central defender they've got at Manchester United, and he's proving that now.
Well, how many world-class players have England got then, in your view?
I'd say the right back's world class. I would say Harry Kane's world class. Yeah. I would say Bellingham's world class. I would say we've got a lot of players who are on the fringe of world class. Do you know what I mean? I think Rashford on his day when he's fit. You know, Maddison at the moment he was playing out his skin, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Before, you can't argue. If you're going to say he was one of the best players in the Premiership, then you've got to put him in that kind of, you know, but you've got to be careful with world class, because you've got to be doing that at that level. You know, when you're talking world class, I'm talking about your Beckhams or your Ronaldos and your Messis. There ain't too many that you can put in that bracket, you know?
No.
And there's not many teams who have too many world class players in their sides. There's not too many, but we're blessed. You know, you mentioned Pickford. I think he's never done anything wrong for England. Last season on club form, I think Ramsdale should have been in all day long. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe what's happened to Ramsdale this season. I mean, what the club have done to him. I mean, I think they've lost the player. They've got to have lost the player, because Rave's come in now. I think, you know, what more can you have done last season as a football player to be the number one at your club?
How would you have felt with it? Your dad had gone on social media?
Listen, his dad knows that he can't say anything, so it wouldn't. His dad's bang on right. His dad's bang on right. Why get Aaron to sign a new contract when you're going to go and sign another goalkeeper? It'll be interesting when it comes to the January transfer window. because if I was Ramsdale, he's going to worry about his England place, right? So he's got to go to Arteta and say, right, listen, if you're not going to play me, and by the way, there'll be no shortage of takers. It's a fantastic goalkeeper. See, like I get that they want goalkeepers to play with the football, but for me, it's basics. Catch the ball, save the ball.
Oh, he got him so many points last season with unbelievable saves.
Well, I believe at Newcastle they get a draw.
Yeah,
and that's 2 points. You know.
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong in my opinion. I don't understand why they've suddenly stopped and done what they've done. It doesn't make sense.
Opportunity to get another good goalkeeper on board. They're looking at what cost them the league title last year. They didn't have another centre back to replace your man who got injured. They didn't have another striker. See, they'll go again in the transfer window. I think from all the rumours that go in, they're going to get the boy from Brentford, Tony. So he's trying to get a squad similar to Man City, where they've got 2 players for every position, but they haven't got 2 world-class players for every position.
Even City don't have 2 world-class.
That's what I'm saying.
Keepers at that level, do you? You generally have your top keeper, and then your backup keeper is a solid, won't let you down. But
Scott Carson.
And you won't, and you don't rotate your goalkeepers.
No,
never do.
So, what do you think in terms of what is success then for next year for the Euros then?
Listen, I'll tell you. Everybody thinks, right, I've heard all this talk about, right, if Gareth Southgate doesn't win the Euros, right, he should be sacked. Well, hang on a minute, let's go to the World Cup. Brazil were fancied to win the World Cup. Should the manager be sacked because they didn't win the World Cup? You're talking about top nations here. So, you know, you've not got a God-given guarantee to win a World Cup or a European Championship. I think the thing for Gareth, which I think people are not really being fair to him, is the Euros. Everybody kind of believes we should have won the Euros. I'm in that same camp. But that was Gareth's. He's young in the job. So you don't have the experience to know, like in his mind, he's thinking, right, we'll get this to extra time and penalties and whatever. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, I honestly believe if you sat down with Gareth Southgate and he was in the position he's in now, and he could look at the bench with the players he's gone, he would have gone for it, 100%.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree. He's got the squad playing for him, hasn't he? And it seems like they've got a really good camaraderie. Like they all seem to gel, and that's the first time in my life watching football that I think we've consistently had that.
Yeah, no, consistently, and he's done that. He's given the young players opportunities, which I've really liked. I mean, the game's about opinions, and everybody should have opinion. I don't agree with everything Gareth does or says. You know, I think it's like a bit like with what's going on with Raheem Sterling now. Raheem Sterling was his go-to all the time, isn't there? And then all of a sudden, Raheem's not in the squad, and Raheem's playing very, very well at Chelsea. But I wonder if that's a bit of him going home from the World Cup for that game, because he went home.
What was that about? Why did he? I don't actually know why he went home.
So he'd moved to Chelsea, and he hadn't got they just moved into the new house, and he hadn't got the alarm system up and running. So they broke him while his wife and kids were in the house. So he felt, you know, even though everybody was all right, he felt he needed to go home. And I wonder if Gareth's taken inference with that, because it doesn't make sense. He's always been his go-to. He could have left him out before when he wasn't playing well, and now he's playing well. I think he's playing as well as he's ever played, right? And he can't get inside, or he can't get in the squad, which is one of those players that I would have in the squad. Maybe not in your starting lineup now, right? But you'd still have him in your squad.
Definitely.
Nobody can say anything. It's a results-based industry, and he's getting results. Apart from winning a major tournament, and if he does that, he will go down as the most successful England manager ever. He's already the most successful England manager without winning a major, because there's only Sir Ralph who's won a World Cup. But people argue that the squad he's got is the best squad. I don't think it is. I think it's a very talented squad. Is it as good as the squad that Venables had? Is it as good as the squad that Capella had? I think they're comparable.
Yeah.
So to single Gareth out and say, well, he should win, they haven't.
Yeah.
And he's gone closer.
Yeah.
He's gone closer.
Yeah.
You know, I think right now we have the right blend. You need a little bit of luck whenever you win a major tournament, whenever you win a cup final, whenever you need a little bit of luck. So when people say the draw opened up for us, you need that little bit of luck. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to get the right calls. And I think Gareth now has the experience now to make the right calls.
Do you think he could do a job at a Premier League club?
Different. It's different because we can't sit here and say that because he's got the cream of the crop, hasn't he, to coach. And he's not even coaching them because you don't coach them when you play for England. You turn up for 3 or 4 days before a World Cup, you have a camp. Before a Euros, you have a camp. It's not coaching the players. So to say, would he be successful in league management? We don't know.
Yeah.
That's largely untested. But I'm sure that he will get that opportunity based on what he's done for England, and he should do, if he actually wants to do that. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to just take you down a bit of a trip down memory lane and talk about your England career. But starting off with kind of what your earliest memories of watching England, any kind of classic games you can think of, anything that sort of brings back that nostalgia.
Well, like for any player who plays football, you want to play for your country. You know, that's the pinnacle. If you get picked or selected to play for your country, then you've got to be one of the best players in the country at that time. So obviously, for me, I've always watched England. Brian Robson was a hero of mine. You know, Cyril, Brendan, Laurie. So obviously, I've always watched England. Especially, I suppose, for me was the Chris Waddle under the Bobby Robson era. That World Cup was unbelievable. Heartbreaking for Gaza, but they were an unbelievable team and some great players and great characters.
In 1990 then, were you at Wednesday with Waddle?
Yes. 1990. Yeah, I would have been. Yeah.
So did he talk to you about that afterwards? About missing that penalty and kind of all the pressure that came with it?
No, we never really spoke about it. Chris is one of those people. Listen, if you were going to put money on anybody to take penalties, you'd put money on Chris Waddle and Stuart Pearce. That's a fact. So if Chris Waddle and Stuart Pearce can miss a penalty, anybody can miss a penalty. Two of the coolest customers you'll ever meet. The pressure doesn't get to them, you know. But when you do that walk from the centre circle to take the penalty and whatever, you know, listen, it can happen to anybody. I mean, I know supporters think, oh, how on earth do you miss a spot kick from 12 yards? But listen, you know, and just because you're a professional footballer, it does happen. And like I said, Chris Waddle and Stuart Pearce are the two coolest people you'll ever wish to, you know. I've never seen Chris ever nervous or Piercy, ever, never in the dressing rooms or whatever. But it happens, you know, circumstances and whatever. And like I said, you missed a penalty. It's not, nobody's died. Nobody's died.
Think he was nervous then, or do you think he just literally missed a penalty?
It's the occasion, isn't it? It's occasion.
It's a big occasion.
It's the occasion. It's the occasion. It's the occasion.
What is it about Germany though? We always seem to lose penalties to Germany. What is that about?
I know. Well, not always. What happened in '66?
Well, true. And more recently, actually,
5-1.
we beat them
Yeah,
recently, didn't we?
Exactly.
But there was a bit of a pattern, certainly during your playing career, where we just consistently kept getting beat off Germany, didn't we, and losing some on penalties. What year was it you got your first call?
Well, when Graham Taylor took over, in 1991, yeah. So I was it was a Sunday, I was in the Rising Sun pub at Abbey Lane where we met,
Yeah.
and I was having my usual Sunday drink. Phone goes, it's Graham Taylor. So I think someone's taking a piss. So I put the phone down. The England manager ringing me in the Rising Sun pub on a Sunday, and I'd had a few drinks. So I thought it's somebody taking a piss. So he rings back again. It's a number I don't know. So it's Graham Taylor. Put the phone down again. And the next time he phones back, he said, "It's Graham Taylor here, the England manager. Do not put down the phone." I thought, oh, fuck's sake. I thought, fuck's sake, it's the England manager.
Yeah.
So I went outside to speak to him, and I said, "Hi Graham, how you doing?" I said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "I thought it was one of the lads taking a piss, like, do you know what I mean? You soon sober up pretty quickly, like, do you know what I mean?" And he just said to me, "Listen, we've been watching you for a while, and we've got injuries. You know, you've done really well." So he said, "You know, we've selected you for the next game, which was a World Cup qualifier." And like, unbelievable. And he said, "But I've already spoke to Trevor Francis and we have a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "You've got the FA Cup semi-final next weekend. He doesn't want to release you." So obviously the FA Cup semi-final for Sheffield Wednesday is the biggest game in their history for how many years. It's massive. So the next day I went in to see Trevor Francis, and he said, "Carlton, no, I'm not letting you go." So obviously I went mad, and I said, "This is wrong." I said, this might be my only chance to get an England cap. Do you know what I mean? So when I went home, I spoke to my dad, and my dad says, "Maybe you need to go around it with a different approach." So I went back the next day, I knocked his office door. I said, "Trevor, can I have a word with you?" I said, "Listen," I said, "when do I miss football games?" I said, "Look at my record, I don't miss football games. I promise you, whatever happens on the Sunday, I will play. I will play. But," I said, "you can't deny me the opportunity to go and get at least one England cap." He's told me, Graham Taylor told me, I will be playing. So I'm not going to sit on the bench or whatever. So this is my chance to get an England cap. And he went, in the end, he reluctantly said, "Yes, Carlton, you can go and play then." And then I got injured.
During the England game?
During the England game. Split my toe. Didn't realise at half time, Stuart Pearce had said to me, "Carlton, what's up with your foot?" Looked down, blood's pissing out my foot, split my toe, whatever. I thought, oh my God. So I've changed boots, got it padded, played the second half. Obviously the adrenaline was going. Come back in, saw the state of it. Docs had to stitch it. I think 6 or 7 stitches down the side of the toe. And the semi-final's in 4 days' time. So he's had to phone Trevor Francis, and I could fucking hear the noise from where I was sitting. Like, fuck me, I could hear the noise. So he's phoning me. I won't answer the phone. I won't answer the phone because I know there's no way I can play on the Sunday. So I've come back Thursday morning. I've gone into the club. He's going fucking ballistic. Doc's had a look at it. No chance, not a prayer. And I said to him, "Just hold, hang fire. The game's not till Sunday. It's not till Sunday. Let's just give it a bit of time. I know I'm a quick healer. Let's give it a bit of time. You said you were going to play. You told me you would play. Whatever happens," he said, "you're fucking playing on Sunday, no matter what happens." Right? And he's going mad at me. And of course I want to play. Of course I want to play. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to play. So what happened was, Thursday it started getting better. Friday the doc come in and we sat down. We had a chat about. I said, "Well, is there any way, I can play?" And the doc says, well maybe we could freeze it. He said, "It's not going to be good enough for you to play. This is not going to happen in the next 48 hours. So he said, "But we could have a go at freezing it." So he said, "Are you happy to do that?" So I said, "Listen, I gave my word to Trevor. I'm a man of my word, right? If it's possible, then I'll play." So you see me when we go down on the before the game on the Sunday. We go there. Team sheet's not gone in there, so it's an hour and 3/4 before. The lads are in this room. I've gone in the back room. I don't like needles. I'm fucking terrified of needles. The doc walks round with a needle, I swear to you, like fucking that. Because you've got to go through the sole of the foot. because it's split on the side. I went, who the fuck are you going to do it? So he's gone, Carlton, that's the only way we can do it. So all the lads on the other side, he starts putting the needle in, and I'm screaming like a baby, and all the lads are laughing on the other side. So I go out on the pitch. I can't stand up. Just can't stand up. It took me ages to get the boots on. Couldn't stand up. And the doc went, listen, the only way we can do this, we've got to freeze the foot. So he froze the foot, went back out. I was all right, because I couldn't feel it. It's done. He said, you got 90 minutes.
This is FA Cup semi-final.
FA Cup semi-final. So he's got 90 minutes against Brian Dean. Brian Dean.
Yeah.
I give the story now about, I wind him up all the time. Even in the game, I used to say to him, I'm playing on one fucking leg here, and you're not getting a kick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So after the game, 90 minutes goes into fucking extra time, don't you? So if you see me on the screen, I run underneath where you go up to get the medals. The doc comes down. By that time, the adrenaline is kicked in, and he just jabs me again, and I play the full game, and we win. But I was in agony with that. I played for weeks with having to have injections until it settled down.
What was it like playing alongside Gaza back then?
Well, it was quite surreal being in the dressing room with all these players. You know, you know, I was quite fortunate that there was a few Sheffield Wednesday players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously with Des Walker there, Chris Woods there, you know, Andy Sinton, being in the dressing room with the likes of Stuart Pearce, Gary Lineker, you know, Paul Gascoigne, players that you've looked up to, and you're in the dressing room with them. Do you know what I mean? Paul Ince and people like that. But I was lucky that Nobby Stiles, he always used to say to me, Carlton, they're only fucking players. And he used to say to me, that's still a pitch, and that's still the same ball. You do what you do. And I was lucky to have Nobby as a mentor all the way through me, you know, a lot of my career, especially the early part of my career. Yeah. I used to go to Nobby, and Nobby would always be like, yeah, you get out there, it's the same pitch, right? It's the same ball, doesn't matter who it's against, Rijkaard, whoever, you get your foot wrapped around them.
Did they welcome you into the team then, all the stars that were there?
Yeah, no, I mean, me and Gazza roomed together, we were really good friends. I mean, you got to remember now, I played for England under-21s for a long time, so I knew a lot of the guys, you know, like Razor. Me and Razor started our England careers together, roomed together, so a lot of the younger guys I knew. And I got on well with the Arsenal boys, you know, we were all drinkers, so I got on well with the Arsenal boys. It's the first time I kind of experienced the media exposure of that level, It's quite intimidating.
Yeah. Do you think it stopped you being overawed then that you knew a lot of the guys from beforehand?
I'm more thinking, what was it like waking up with Gaza at next bed?
We just hit it off. I was always his minder. He would come and talk to me about stuff. I mean, it's interesting. Like, you know, I had a conversation with Piers Morgan about this, and Piers Morgan at the time, he was editor of the News of the World that was party to destroying Paul Gascoigne. I remember being away on England duty with Paul, and Paul used to put the showers on and run the taps in the sink, right, before he'd speak to me, because he was convinced that they were tapping his phones. And I always used to say to him, Paul, you're fucking nuts. There's nobody tapping your phone. Then years later, found out that they were tapping his phone, and he wasn't being paranoid. But they were the people who were responsible for turning him paranoid. They really were. So it was a bit hypocritical for Piers to be paying for treatment for him later on. Yeah. You know, and I get on well with Piers Morgan, but, you know, I did have a spat with him, and he said, well, you know, we have, you know, played for treatment for Gazza after, but the horse was bolted then, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that media attention, though, had a massive impact on him and his future?
Oh, listen, he was like a pop star. He was like when we finished an England game, right, we'd go in the players' lounge, leave. He had to leave in the boot of a Mercedes. He was that big. He was that big. It was frightening. I don't know how he didn't cope. And the only time Gazza was at ease, the only time he was at ease was when he was out on the football pitch. I mean, most people shit themselves when they're going out to play in front of 90,000 people at Wembley. For Gazza, this is just home. That's what he does. That's what when he came alive, playing football. He just was at home with the supporters on the football pitch, doing what he does. And he was a phenomenal football player. We became really, really good friends. And I'm sad to see him as he is now, but he's happy and he's okay. He's happy and he's okay.
Would you, given everything he's gone through, if you could have been Gazza or had your career, which one would you pick, given everything you know?
You can only get to where Gazza got to with the media by doing what he did.
Right.
He only got to that position because he was great. He was great. We still haven't produced today a better midfield player than him. He was a player of all generations. He's a different level. So he wouldn't have got to that media attention if he hadn't become that great. And so then you've got the problems with what he's had and what he's had to go through, the death of his friend. If you read his autobiography, the death of his friend that had a major problem which made him OCD, very OCD about stuff, and in the end, once you become a media focus, they can either make you or destroy you. And at the time, they basically destroyed Gazza,
Possibly England's greatest ever talent.
Without a shadow. With that, I don't even have to think about that. Without a shadow of a doubt.
It's a travesty that the media did that, really.
But the media,
they turned him into a character.
But the media do that to everybody, don't they? Everybody that we have in this country that's successful, the media build them up. Look at AJ. Look what he's done for British boxing. Yeah. Look what he's done. He's had limited amateur experience, gone on to be a 2-weight world championship, and all the media have done is absolutely hammered him since he's been successful. And that's what we do. Anybody that we have who's successful, we build them up, and we get to that level, and then we look to knock them. If you look at the Americans, you look at the Australians, they look at the way they treat their stars.
Oh, if they get any success, the Australians, they're buzzing for it, aren't they?
They're buzzing.
They're singing the names. The media is so positive, whereas we seem to just glorify, failure to a degree.
The Americans do, though, don't they? Their stars are like, they're the pinnacle of everything. Your Tom Brady's, Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant's, and the like.
Yeah, and we just look to every opportunity to knock anybody who's successful. We do. Look at the abuse Harry Maguire's getting. I'm not saying he's world class at, but he certainly doesn't deserve the abuse that he's getting. Yeah. He certainly doesn't.
I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody should get the level of abuse that's dished out. He's a football player. Yes, he's well paid, but just because he does things wrong or he doesn't play
but we've
we've
touched on this before. The simple fact is there's 2,775 footballers in this country with a population of 60 million. So footballers aren't the only ones who are earning top dollars. There's bankers, there's lawyers, who are earning big money, really big money, right? So we kind of signal out the footballers because the footballers are on our TV every weekend. But they're not the only ones who are earning big money. And so in the country, but then they get singled out and it's wrong.
A banker doesn't have 30,000 people sat in his office while he's doing his work, seeing everything he's doing, do they?
Correct.
Wouldn't be that interesting, would it?
Well, no, I suppose not. Mind you, I've seen some pretty dull games in my life, so maybe it won't be so bad.
Bringing it back to Graham Taylor then and Euro 92 and the criticism that he got, do you think that was over the top and unjustified?
Unbelievable. When it becomes personal to anybody, that's a line that's unacceptable. Yeah, listen, you win a game, you lose a game, it's a game of football. When that criticism becomes personal, that's drawing a line too far. It's affecting somebody's family, it's affecting that person. We were unlucky in that qualifying campaign. We went down to the last game Kuhlman should have been sent off. It should have been a penalty. And had that have happened, we'd have qualified for the World Cup and would have gone with players who are just literally starting their playing careers. Alan Shearer, myself, those players were on single figures when we went to the Euros in '92. A lot of those players, Dave Batty, myself, Alan Shearer, all of these players were on single figures in caps. So lack of experience. Because that team, Graham took over from that great team that nearly won the World Cup in 1990. A lot of those players, the majority of those players, now had finished their careers or coming virtually to the end of their careers. So it was unfortunate for Graham, and I didn't like some of the reporters. Oh, when he died, they're all coming out and saying this, that, and saying that. No, you went at him, you made it personal, and he's got a family and whatever. It's a line that shouldn't be crossed.
Did it affect him?
Yes, of course it did. Of course it did.
Because he got to do with the turnips, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
of course it did. Well, you've seen in the interviews, didn't you? You've seen in the interviews in the end how it got to him. And listen, I'm not saying that because I got capped for it by England, but he's a thoroughly decent bloke. He's a decent bloke who has done well in club management before going into the England job. To see a man destroyed like that was really sad. And the media tried to do it with me. The media tried to belittle me at every opportunity. But you see, the thing is, right, I'm a strong character. My argument was to them, go out and play well. So I'm shit, but I'm playing against Rijkaard, I'm playing against, all of these top players, but yeah, I'm getting man of the match in those games. So at the end of the day, I have great self-belief, and so the media couldn't get to me. They couldn't get to me.
So even that Euro 92, what was the atmosphere like then in the camp when you knew things were struggling? Was there still a positive vibe? Or
well, the thing was that, by the way, I got voted England's best player in Euro 92, right? But and again, I got loads of criticism, but I got it voted England's best player. But the problem was, right, we were very unlucky in that campaign. We played the opening game against Denmark, who got a wild card into the tournament, and we drew 0-0. It's always difficult in the World Cup if you draw your first game, because you then need to win your next game. That's it. So you need to get off to that first win, because the first win, then you possibly just need a point to qualify, right? So we drew, and then we're coming up against France. France were a good side. So you've got your Papins, Cantona, you've got your Didier Deschamps, you've got Laurent Blanc, you've got Basil Bowley, and we absolutely battered France. And if you remember, Stuart Pearce, it's a free kick, comes back off the post, hits the goalkeeper, Sod's law, Sod's law, it could go anywhere, right? And then you're left now, you've drawn 2 games and you're left with having to win against Sweden. Well, if you look at what happened, right? Arsenal, Sheffield Wednesday was the majority of the England squad. I played something like 78 games that season. I was speaking to Lee Dixon, people like that. They played the same amount of games. We were all knackered. I went out for that game against Sweden, and I was one of the fittest players in the Premier League. I had nothing in the tank. Absolute fuck all in the tank. We needed to win. So we didn't qualify. Everybody was disappointed, and Graham was absolutely slaughtered. So he had to qualify for the World Cup. And it wasn't to be. I think it was Denmark at home. We're winning that 1-0, and the guy scores in the 93rd minute. I think it's 35-yard bullet into the top corner. Then we're 2-0 up against Holland at Wembley at home. We think Des Walker pulled Overmars outside the box, but it's given us a penalty. Voters then breaks Gazza's cheekbone. Yep. So we're then missing Gazza, because he's broken cheek. So it was just one of those. Then you go to Rotterdam, knowing that a draw's good enough to go to a World Cup. We have a free kick. We hit the woodwork twice. We have a free kick that gets charged down. We don't get to retake it. Incy charges down the free kick, and he gets Kuhlman gets to retake it when he shouldn't even be on the pitch. And he even told us afterwards. He said to all of us, he said he could not believe it. The linesman gave a penalty. The linesman gives a penalty straight away. So if the linesman goes across, he's the last man, right? Yep. He's got to go.
Yeah.
So he's not only got to go, it's a penalty as well. That puts a different complexion on the game.
Is that where they dinked the free kick over?
Yeah, so he did. So he dinked it over. Yeah. He hits the wall first time. He has to retake it, and then he dinks it over. You know, so it was ill-fated, and yeah, it is what it is. I wasn't the most talented, and that's all right. I'm not bothered about that. You don't have to be the most talented. As long as you get your head down, you work hard, and I'm living proof of that. Just get your head down, work hard. You can carve out not just a career in football. You can carve out a career in anything if you're prepared to put the hard work in. If you put the hard work in and you're talented, like the likes of Ronaldo and Beckham, you become world class. That's as simple as it is. Yeah. So for me, it's not a little kid from Rowley Regis, Whalley West Midlands, to have the career that I had, to go on and play for England, and to do the things that I did do in football. It's a dream come true for me.
What do you think 7-year-old Carlton would think if you were...
I think you're nuts if you said that was going to happen. So, do you know my dad? My dad's 89 now, and he's got the dementia, and you know, he's not so good these days. But do you know what? He's very low on compliments. Is my old man. He's very low. He's a very hard taskmaster. And when his mother died, and he went back to bury his mother, my mum signed the contract. He only needed one parent to sign the contract, and you know, he was fuming when he got back. And when I got married to Lucy, you know, it was the first time, only time. If you get a compliment out of my dad, you've done well. And he said on my wedding day, if I'd have known he was going to be so successful, I would have been kinder to him. But if he hadn't have been the way that he was with me, I wouldn't have gone on to be. So you look at parents, you know, my mum was the one, follow your dreams, the soft one, and my dad was the hard one. It's about complimenting each other, isn't it? So I wouldn't have played football if it wasn't for my mum, but I wouldn't have achieved what I had achieved as a footballer if it wasn't for my dad. So, you know.
Did he kind of push you on?
No.
Want more from you?
Not pushed me on because he didn't want me to play football, but he set standards. He set standards that helped me to play the game the way they would do. So when things weren't going well, it would be, there's no excuses. There's no excuses. Find a way. Find a way. And that mentality. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. It's done, it's finished, it's gone. You go again. So he's always like that. You know what you've got to do. You've got to do it. And that was it. He was very black and white, and that helped me. I'm a very black and white person. So that helped me, like if I played bad or whatever, it wasn't like, well, I know I've played bad. Why did I play bad? No excuses, not feeling sorry for myself. Let's get back on it. Let's find a way to get it right, to go again the following week, you know. But very few compliments from my old man. If you get a compliment from him, he's doing well. So that was straight. on my wedding day, he said that when I married Lucy, he said, you know, if I thought he'd done well, and he was always, do you know, my old man, what I love about him is he was never wanted anything from me. Never wanted anything from me, ever at all. And if I ever did anything for him, he'd always be, you know, he bought him a car or sent him on a cruise, or, you know, the things that I did for them, he was always, you don't have to do that, son, you don't have to do so. But I said, I do, Dad, I do. You know, when my dad came over from Jamaica in the late 50s, you know, he was on £175 a week. And I got in the first team at West Brom, I was on £500 a week. So, you know, for him to do the things to make it possible for me and my sisters to do what we did do, you know, you've got to look after them, haven't you? You know?
Well, that seems the perfect way to end this week's episode. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you like what you've seen, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave us your comments below. We'll be back next week with the next episode. Cheers, guys.